Monde. Merci beaucoup Travis et Ben pour nous avoir invités aujourd'hui. Évidemment, Lionheart fait un énorme travail afin de livrer de nourriture aux banques alimentaires qui font 2 fois les repas qu'il y a 10 ans. On a un pays maintenant, malheureusement, de frigidaires vide, compte à banque vide et ventre vide après 10 ans des libéraux au pouvoir qui ont augmenté tellement les prix et les coûts de la vie. Ça me fait penser un peu de Ronald Reagan, l'ancien président. Il a posé une question en 1980 aux Américains. Il a dit, est-ce que votre situation financière est meilleure aujourd'hui qu'il y a 8 ans, oui ou non? Et c'est une question que les Canadiens devraient se poser mardi, parce que mardi va être le 10e anniversaire de ce gouvernement libéral. Vous souvenez-vous que les libéraux ont été élus en promettant que les petits déficits allaient être investis, que les déficits allaient être un investissement pour faire croître l'économie. Mais 10 ans plus tard, c'est quoi le résultat? Ils ont doublé la dette nationale, doublé les files d'attente aux banques alimentaires et doublé le coût du logement. L'investissement est tombé de 11%. C'est la pire chute dans l'investissement dans l'histoire de notre pays et dans le G7. Et M. Carney promet exactement la même chose que Justin Trudeau, que les déficits vont investir. Mais c'est quoi les résultats des 7 mois? En fait, on peut poser la même question de M. Reagan. Êtes-vous dans une meilleure situation économique, chers Canadiens, qu'il y a 7 mois quand M. Carney est arrivé au pouvoir en promettant que la vie allait être meilleure? La réponse est clairement non. M. Carney a doublé les déficits hérités de Justin Trudeau. L'inflation est en hausse. L'inflation alimentaire est 2 fois le cible de la Banque du Canada. Selon son agence, on bâtit moins de maisons. On a le pire économie dans le G7. Mais M. Carney répète exactement les mêmes erreurs coûteuses que les libéraux ont fait depuis 10 ans. Maintenant, M. Carney demande que vous, les gens qui dépendent déjà des banques alimentaires, fassent davantage de sacrifices. Il a dit que les changements vont être durs et prendre longtemps. C'est pas ça qu'il a dit dans les élections. Mais on se pose la question, qu'est-ce que M. Carney veut que les Canadiens sacrifient? Ils ont déjà sacrifié l'accès à la propriété et la nourriture abordable pour payer le prix d'un gouvernement exorbitant. M. Carney dit que les Canadiens devraient sacrifier encore plus. Et maintenant, c'est pour citer CTV, Carney signale qu'il est prêt à se battre lors des élections sur le budget qui sera déposé la semaine prochaine. C'est une citation. Pourquoi ce premier ministre coûteux veut-il à tout prix aller en élection coûteuse? C'est parce que M. Carney doit distraire les Canadiens de toutes ses promesses brisées. Il veut blâmer ces promesses brisées et les coûts qu'ils imposent sur le dos des Canadiens sur des élections. Il veut dire que la raison pour laquelle il a fait exactement le contraire de ce qu'il a promis, c'est parce qu'il a été interrompu par des élections que lui a orchestrées. Regarde, il a promis l'économie qui grandit le plus vite dans le G7. Il a livré l'économie qui décline le plus vite dans le G7. Il a promis de doubler la construction du logement, mais son agence immobilière fait une projection que la construction va tomber de 13%. Il a promis de se faire juger par le prix de l'épicerie et maintenant le prix de l'épicerie augmente 2 fois plus rapidement que le cible de la Banque du Canada. Et il y a 7% plus de personnes qui vont aux banques alimentaires cette année que l'année dernière, c'est après que les libéraux ont déjà doublé le nombre. Il a promis qu'il allait s'occuper de Donald Trump et négocier une victoire, citation, qu'il allait avoir un deal avant le 21 juillet, pas de deal, pas de victoire, les tarifs américains ont doublé et maintenant M. Carney s'est embarrassé. Il a approuvé une publicité de Ronald Reagan et après ça, il s'est excusé de façon humiliante devant Donald Trump sans aucun résultat. Il a promis d'ouvrir des autres marchés outre-mer, mais il n'a pas enlevé un seul tarif de l'étranger sur les industries canadiennes, pas un seul, depuis tous ces vingtaines de voyages à travers le monde. Les premiers ministres des provinces doivent se débrouiller pendant que le chef libéral est trop faible et brise toutes ses promesses en matière de négociations internationales. Tout ça pendant que M. Carney présentait des excuses humiliantes pour la publicité qu'il avait approuvée lui-même. M. Carney veut blâmer tout ça sur des élections. Il veut proposer un budget qui est tellement coûteux que personne ne peut l'appuyer pour orchestrer son défait et lancer les Canadiens en élections coûteuses pour éviter la responsabilité pour toutes ces promesses brisées. Permettez-moi de montrer comment les conservateurs ont travaillé dans bonne foi pour avoir un deal. J'ai rencontré M. Carney et je lui ai écrit une lettre demandant un budget abordable pour une vie abordable, en proposant des politiques très spécifiques pour aider. Éliminer la taxe carbone industrielle sur nos fermiers et nos constructeurs de logements pour pouvoir avoir les maisons et de nourriture plus abordables. Et sur les producteurs de l'acier, l'aluminium, pour qu'on puisse gagner la guerre tarifaire. M. Carney a dit non. Il veut augmenter la taxe carbone sur le dos des Canadiens. C'est ça le coût de Carney. J'ai suggéré qu'il aurait pu couper les impôts sur le travail, l'investissement, l'énergie et la construction de logements. Il a dit non. Il veut augmenter les taxes sur les dos des industries. C'est ça le coût de Carney. Et il a dit, je lui ai dit, gardez votre promesse de dépenser moins que Justin Trudeau. C'est ça votre promesse, M. Carney, direct. Il a dit non. Et maintenant, il veut dépenser 100% plus sur son déficit que M. Trudeau faisait. Donc, il a brisé sa promesse et il va provoquer encore de l'inflation. C'est ça le coût de M. Carney. Le premier ministre refuse de faire aucun compromis pour rendre la vie abordable parce qu'il veut des élections coûteuses afin de distraire de ses promesses brisées. Avec M. Carney, c'est toujours plus de dépenses et de taxes plus élevées pour que le gouvernement puisse prendre le contrôle de l'économie. Ces dépenses vont bénéficier des élites qui profitent du BS coopératif, comme lui il a fait chez Brookfield, tout en évitant de payer leurs propres taxes. Toutes les dépenses sur les grandes corporations, des amis de M. Carney, ne vont pas bénéficier, monsieur et madame tout le monde, ils vont juste coûter aux Canadiens. C'est ça le coût de Carney. Chaque dollar que M. Carney dépense sort des poches des Canadiens. Plus qu'il dépense, plus que ça coûte cher. Ces dépenses irresponsables font en sorte que les choses que vous et votre famille achètent vont devenir de plus en plus chères. 10 ans d'impôts inflationnistes, de dettes inflationnistes et de taxes inflationnistes ont fait grimper votre coût de la vie. Un autre budget coûteux ne va pas aider ça. Mais mon message aux Canadiens, c'est le suivant. Vous n'avez pas besoin de vivre comme ça. Vous méritez mieux. Vous avez déjà fait trop de sacrifices pour payer le prix de ce gouvernement libéral pendant 10 ans. C'est le temps de rendre votre vie abordable avec un budget abordable, en éliminant les taxes sur le dos des Canadiens, en permettant nos entreprises de produire plus, en permettant nos ressources d'aller aux marchés mondiaux. Tout ça pour rendre la vie abordable et pour réinstaurer la promesse du Canada. où chacun qui travaille fort gagne une belle vie avec une belle maison dont ils sont des propriétaires dans des communautés sécuritaires. C'est ça notre but. Merci beaucoup. And now in English. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. And I want to thank Lionhearts, Travis and Ben, for the work that this organization does to collect donations and give them to our local food banks. I'm guessing the local demand is pretty high these days. Yeah, it's incredible. We've seen roughly a 110% increase in food bank demand over the last 10 years, a staggering increase. It's more than doubled, actually, since 2019. This year is worse than last, about 7% worse than last year, as food becomes more and more expensive, which all coincides with Tuesday's 10-year anniversary of the Liberal government. It will be exactly 10 years ago that this Liberal government was sworn into power. This Liberal finance minister, of course, was part of that government from the very start. Most of the Liberal cabinet ministers and caucus members were there back in 2015, and they all made a promise that if they ran little deficits, that they would have big investments. Well, here we are, and what had happened as a result? They doubled the national debt. They doubled the cost of housing. They doubled food bank lineups. And investment, well, it collapsed, dropping 11%, the biggest drop in Canadian history and the biggest drop in the G7. In other words, deficits reduce investment. Reminds me of Ronald Reagan, the master communicator, who asked a question that rings true today. In 1980, he said to Americans, "Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?" Well, I ask Canadians, are you better off than you were 10 years ago when Liberals came into office promising that deficits would lead to investment? What have you seen? You've seen your grocery prices rise, your kids can't afford a place to live, more and more people are living homeless, and we've had the worst economy in the G7 for over a decade now. And now I ask the question, are you better off than you were 7 months ago when Mark Carney took office? Well, he's doubled the deficits, inflation has gone up, food bank lineups have grown, home building is down, and we have the worst economy in the G7. So it's with interest that I read the headline in CTV today, and I quote it. Carney signals he's prepared to fight an election over next week's budget. Why does the Prime Minister, this costly Prime Minister, want a costly election now? Why? Well, the answer is Mark Carney needs a costly election on his costly budget to distract from all of his broken promises. Let's recap them quickly. He promised to have the fastest G7 economy. He promised to have the fastest growing economy in the G7. He's delivered the fastest shrinking economy in the G7. He promised to double home building. Home building is expected now to drop by 13%, according to his own housing agency. He promised he'd be judged by the prices at grocery stores. They're rising twice as fast as the Bank of Canada's target. And 7% more Canadians will go to food banks this year than last. In fact, food prices have risen so much that there's 100% more food bank demand than there was in 2019 before COVID. He promised that he could handle Donald Trump. That's a quote. Another quote, that he would negotiate a win, that he would have a deal by July 21st. No deal, no win, no elbows, no jobs. In fact, President Trump has since doubled tariffs on Canadian goods, and Mr. Carney has now embarrassed all Canadians by apologizing for an ad that he had earlier approved. His weak leadership forced provinces to step up with their own campaigns to reach the Americans, and after they did that, and Mr. Carney approved of it, he then went groveling and offering an apology, with the result being no deal, no wins, and Canadians are losing their jobs. We cannot trust Mark Carney abroad, and we cannot afford him at home. Carney wants to blame all of these broken promises and many more that will become evident over the next several months on a costly election. He wants to claim that the reason he couldn't do any of the things that he promised during the election was because there was yet another election. Let me illustrate the bad faith and the costly approach
on which he has been operating. I came to him in good faith, in a spirit of hope, and offered ideas for an affordable budget and an affordable life. I said, Mr. Carney, why don't we get rid of the industrial carbon tax on home builders and farmers so that we can have affordable food and houses, on our steel, aluminum, and cement producers so that they can compete in this trade war? He said no. In fact, he wants to accelerate industrial carbon tax increases, which will drive up inflation further and drive more jobs out of our country. That is the cost of Carney. I said, let's cut taxes on work, investment, energy, and home building. He said no. He wants to raise those taxes. That's the cost of Carney. I said that Mr. Carney should keep his promise and spend less. And that's a quote, spend less than Justin Trudeau. He said no. He wants to double Trudeau's deficits and keep on spending, driving inflation and the cost of living even higher. That is the cost of Carney. No compromise from Mr. Carney whatsoever to make for an affordable budget and an affordable life. Just more spending, more debt, more taxes, more inflation, more of the same. His spending will benefit well-connected corporate insiders like him who thrive off taxpayer-funded handouts and then tuck the money away and into tax havens abroad. We don't need a Brookfield budget. We need an affordable budget for an affordable life. Carney's costly budget this week will likely double Trudeau's deficits. This is the cost of Carney. Every dollar he spends comes out of your pocket. The more he spends, the more things cost. The needs that Canadians have will become more expensive as government inflates everything. It will be more expensive because of Mr. Carney to eat, heat, and house yourself. And now Mr. Carney says that you need to make more sacrifices, especially the young people. He says, we'll have to sacrifice more. What more do they have left to sacrifice, Mr. Carney? You've already taken away home ownership from them. You forced them to cut their diets and reduce the quality of the food they eat. Their paychecks are down because of high taxes, and you've given many of their jobs to temporary foreign workers. What more, Mr. Carney, do you expect our youth to sacrifice? 10 years of inflationary taxes and debt mean the cost of government is driving up the cost of living, and Liberals have left. Empty Liberal promises have meant empty bank accounts, empty fridges, and empty stomachs for Canadians. So my message today for those hungry Canadians, those who are hungry for an affordable life, is you don't have to live like this. You have sacrificed enough. You deserve to have hope, jobs, and homes. Hope, jobs, and homes in an affordable Canada. I believe that this is possible because that was the country that we always had. We as Conservatives, we're going to continue to fight for an affordable budget. And we're not giving up. Our message is that our hand is still extended, and there's still 2 days for Mr. Carney and the Liberals to reverse their costly, promise-breaking ways. Introduce an affordable budget. We would support and vote in favor of eliminating the industrial carbon tax to bring down the cost of living and to unlock our economy. We would vote for eliminating the capital gains tax on reinvesting in Canada. We would vote for lower tax on energy, home building, work, and investment. We would vote to get rid of all of the hidden taxes on foods so that Canadians can afford to eat, heat, and house themselves. We would vote to end the inflation tax by capping the deficit. That's what we're fighting for, because we want a hopeful future for all Canadians, a future that is affordable, a future that allows everyone who works hard to enjoy a nice home, delicious, nutritious food, meat and potatoes on the table every night, living on a safe street under our proud flag. Thank you very much.
We will now take questions from the media. Please identify yourself and your outlet.
Hi, Mr. Poilievre. JP Tasker from CBC News. How are you doing?
Very well. Well, and I would have been better if the game had gone differently last night.
I know. I'm a little bummed out myself.
Did you stay up and watch the whole thing?
I did.
Yeah, you
look
like you could use a coffee like me.
Yeah. It wasn't great.
Yeah. Well, I'd say it was great, but it was just not the ending we wanted. But what a hell of a season. I think we have to give the team great credit for uniting all Canadians around this incredible sporting event. I was never a baseball fan, I'll be honest. I grew up a football and a hockey guy. But since October, I have been a very loyal, unflinching fan to the Blue Jays, and I want to thank them for all they did to give us an exciting and thrilling World Series.
Do you want an election before Christmas?
We want an affordable budget that will give Canadians affordable life before Christmas. That's my priority. We shouldn't be playing, Mark Carney shouldn't be playing games and trying to force an election. He should be sitting down with us. I'm willing to work all through the night, tonight and tomorrow, to come up with an affordable budget that will make an affordable life for Canadians. But we will not vote to raise grocery prices and increase housing costs as the Liberals have done over the last decade. Canadians cannot afford any more Liberal sacrifices. So my message is one of, let's bring in a budget that's affordable so that we can have hope, jobs, and homes for all Canadians.
Next question.
I should probably have Bill Curry from the Globe and Mail. We're standing here in Stittsville, the riding of Carleton that you formerly held. Two related questions. Are you committed to running here in the next federal election? And secondly, during this campaign, there's a lot of public servants who live in this riding. Bruce Fanjoy focused on the Liberal campaign promise to cap, not cut the public service. And yet we're seeing signals from Mr. Champagne that there will be overall reductions, possibly tens of thousands, in terms of lowering the size of the federal public service. Is that something you support?
Well, I'll let you know when I have news for you on the first point. On the second point, though, we have too much bureaucracy. Over this costly Liberal decade, they've increased the size of the bureaucracy by 50%, and they've doubled the spending on consultants to do the jobs that public servants are supposed to be doing. I was very honest during the last election. We need to cut bureaucracy and consultants. It might not have been a popular position, but it's the only way that we're going to bring down the deficits, the inflation, and the cost of living. So far, though, despite all the grandstanding from Mr. Carney, the letters he sent around to his ministers and leaked to the Globe and Mail, spending on bureaucracy is actually up an astonishing 8% in less than a year. So Mark Carney has a more costly bureaucracy than the inflated one that Justin Trudeau left behind. And we need to go in exactly the opposite direction with less bureaucracy, less consultants, lower costs. That is that way that we can bring down taxes, debt, and inflation. Thank you.
Next question.
Hello, Anya Kudadeglia from the Canadian Press. I wanted to get your reaction to the Nova Scotia's government response to the Supreme Court decision that came out last week, striking down mandatory minimums for child pornography. Basically, the Nova Scotia Justice Minister says they have grave concerns and they want the Liberal government to take action. So what's your response, and what would you like to see the Liberals do?
Thank you. Great question. I was really disgusted with this ruling. The two convicted pedophiles in question contributed to the torment and torture of literally hundreds of kids. One of them had 377 pornographic images of children between 3 and 6 years old. Another had hundreds of videos of children, I think between the ages of 5 and 10. That is the age range of my children. And let us be clear, that is not a victimless crime. The monsters who look at this material create a profit motive for literally hundreds of kids to be tortured and humiliated in videos that may circulate for the rest of their lives. They will never recover from this trauma. And yet, these two perverts are going to get out of jail in a year and 9 months. Frankly, those sentences were far too low. And now the court says that some other users of child pornography should be able to get out in less than that time. This is insane. It's nuts. And quite frankly, should Canadians make me their Prime Minister, I will use the notwithstanding clause, and I will bring in mandatory prison sentences for users of child porn that are far higher than the ones that were already in place. In other words, the mandatory minimums I will institute using the Charter of Rights and Freedoms will be far, far tougher than the ones the court just shut down. And finally, I will do that to uphold the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, because those hundreds of kids, they have charter rights. And I'm more worried about the charter rights of our children than I am about these perverts and pedophiles.
Next question.
David Aiken, Global News. Welcome back to Stittsville. Mr. Poilievre.
I wanted to hold it close to your house, David, so that you didn't have to drive very
close.
far.
Thank you.
But I still haven't got my invitation over to your place for a morning coffee. I might be more perky if you had done that.
We have lots of Halloween candy left over, so you can come over and
The
help
sugar
finish
might
that.
help.
There you go. Coming back to the budget, lowering taxes is great for people who pay taxes, and that's often middle and higher income. Thinking about the kind of people who'd use this food bank, lower income Canadians who may not benefit from lower taxes in a big way, are there some other affordability measures that a conservative government or that Conservatives might advocate now, specifically aimed at the folks who might use this place?
Yes, absolutely. I want to cut the worst, most immoral tax of all, the tax that targets the poorest people the most, and that is the inflation tax. Inflation happens when governments print money and bid up the cost of everything people buy. It is proven beyond any doubt that the poorest people suffer the most as a result of inflation because they do not have assets that insulate them from the rising cost of living. The inflation tax, the liberal inflation tax, takes from the poor and gives to the rich. It takes from the have-nots and gives to the have-yots. So when the reason why the food bank use has gone up by over 100% during the massive expansion of liberal government spending and deficits is because the inflation that spending has caused has landed on the shoulders of single moms and seniors and others who can't pay their bills. So when we talk about capping liberal deficits, it's not to please accountants who are looking at spreadsheets. It's to stop inflation so that the hardworking, the working poor, the people who get out of bed every day and work hard for not a lot of money will at least preserve the purchasing power of their dollar. Also, let's get rid of the industrial carbon tax, which again, driving up energy costs will drive up the cost of living on the poorest people. We can't allow that. Our working poor in this country cannot afford more expensive energy. If you want to defeat poverty, there's the two best ways to do it is to have strong money that buys affordable food, homes, and fuel, and abundant, affordable energy for all. That's how we're going to make this a poverty-free nation.
Next question.
Do you think it was appropriate for the Prime Minister to apologize to Trump for the Ontario ad? And if not, what would you have done in that scenario?
Well, first of all, I would have provided this strong leadership so that provinces did not have to all run off in their own direction. Now, we don't see a variety of different governors in the U.S. being forced to run ads in Canada or do their own diplomacy. We see that because Mark Carney has been weak, indecisive, he has no plan, and he's broken all of his promises. So the provinces have been left with no choice but to fill the void that Carney's weak leadership has left behind. And then Mr. Carney has been very duplicitous. He approved the ad, and then he condemned the ad, and then he apologized for the ad. He embarrassed himself and regrettably the whole country, and we can't trust Mark Carney abroad. We can't afford him here at home. Thank you.
We have time for a final question.
On the budget, Don Davies, the NDP interim leader, said today the one option for the party is that they might abstain. The Bloc said they are ruling that out as an option. For Conservative MPs, is abstention an option on the budget vote?
Well, before I answer that, you live around here as well, don't you?
Used to.
Oh, you're not in Stittsville anymore. Okay. I didn't have to leave. The reality is that we're going to show up and do our jobs to fight for an affordable budget. We'll be there on Tuesday to see what the government puts in. We don't need a higher cost of living through a higher costed budget. We need an affordable budget for affordable lives for all Canadians, and that's what we're going to be fighting for. But I can't tell you any more than that till I see the thing.
Thank you. This concludes today's
All right. Thanks, everyone, for being here. Thank you.